muted unless you're speaking. If you have questions during the conversation, you can use the chat function or one of the reactions, and then we'll get back to you and answer your questions. We're going to let the speakers talk a little bit about themselves and their careers, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end as well. Please be mindful of not jumping over anybody speaking. The goals of these coffee breaks are to provide an opportunity for our community to engage in conversational hot topics over a cup of coffee, and I've got mine right here, in a short 30-minute break. And our theme for today's conversation is Green Mentors in the Sustainable Design and Engineering Professions. And we're very excited today to have our special guests, Ralph Bickness and Chad Coker. Ralph is a lead fellow, a lead AP BD+C, and a member of the Committee for Climate Action and Design Excellence at the American Institute of Architects. He's a nationally recognized sustainable design leader with over 40 years of experience and is a principal and co-founder of Hellmuth and Bickness Architects. Ralph's objective for every act of design and construction is to enrich life. He's an ardent champion and advocate for transformative green building at local, state, and federal levels. He has served and continues to serve on several boards and committees dedicated to widespread sustainability, has participated in several publications, and is a frequent mentor, juror, and panelist for students at K through 12 schools, universities, and colleges, and frequently lectures on numerous facets of green building. We also have Chad Coker, who's a engineer, lead AP BD+C, and director of operations, St. Louis Higher Education and Research at Ross and Baruzzini. He has over 13 years of experience managing projects and analyzing and designing mechanical systems with a focus on science and technology facilities for the higher education, healthcare, and commercial markets. His areas of expertise include airside systems, chiller plants, boiler plants, heat recovery systems, building automation systems, plumbing, and fire protection, with an emphasis on sustainability. Chad has served and continues to serve on the International Institute for Sustainable Laboratories, St. Louis Chapter Board, and the US-Missouri Gateway Chapter Higher Education and Emerging Professionals Committee. So we welcome both of you this morning. I will let Ralph talk about his career for a little bit and then turn it over to Chad. And then again, we'll take questions, open it up for questions at the end. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Julie. Really appreciate the introduction and welcome everybody. My name is Ralph Bickness, as you probably heard. I'm a principal with Hellmuth and Bickness Architects. We started our firm about 18 years ago to really focus on green design. We saw a big need for it and also expected the demand would be rising, and it has. So some of the really interesting projects we've worked on as lead consultants and as sometimes as prime architect, we do both at our business, where we're the architects and consultants to other architects, owners, and contractors. Some include the Gateway Arch or the St. Louis Arch Visitor Center and Museum, which made LEED Gold a couple of years ago. We're currently working with Baruzzini constructors on the Missouri Botanical Garden Visitor Center. Very excited about that. We're currently doing a master sustainability plan for St. Louis Zoo's Wildcare Park, a brand new over 200 acres, 225, 250 acre site in Norris County. And then we'll also be doing some master plan work at the Forest Park campus. We're doing a lot of work for Washington University on sustainability and have had some very high performing buildings there. We were the architect for the Living Learning Center, Washington University's Tyson Research Park, which was tied for the first Living Building Challenge project in the world. And we've worked on several other Living Building Challenge projects as well. So, we've been really excited. It took a little bit while to build up the capacity in our firm and with our client base to do that kind of work. And we're really excited to have been doing that as a firm for several years. But even before we started the firm, both Dan and I were doing our best to interject sustainability and green design practices in the firms and in the projects we worked with. So enough about me right now. I'll turn it over to Chad.
Thanks, Ralph. So I'm Chad Coker with Ross and Baruzzini. I'm Director of Operations for our higher education and research market. And a lot of what that entails kind of touches on a lot of the same clients that Ralph mentioned. So Washington University and the School of Medicine as well. Do a lot of work in the Cortex district now with the laboratories and buildings that are going up in that area as well. So a lot of bioscience, do a lot with any commercial laboratory research, and then university research, Missouri State University, Mizzou, MS&T, and that kind of work is where we specialize. And as possibly some of you are aware, laboratory buildings are some of the biggest energy users that you'll come across. So, there's a lot of opportunities for us to try and save some energy. One, just better for the environment. Two, to save money for the owners and the users and eventual occupants of those buildings. So that's definitely something that we try and work with the owners. And, there's always a cost benefit that we have to kind of weigh and look through, but that's definitely something that is a focus of mine and of our company in general. Yeah, so and then that's design side, project management, and dealing with those. And then I also am our director of operations, which for our group is just overseeing staff and working with the new projects that come in the door and kind of making sure those efficiently work their way through the company. So as I mentioned, I've been an engineer for about 13 years, a little over 13 years now. And got my degree at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So that's where I started with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and then wound my way into consulting engineering right out of school, but honestly didn't know anything about the consulting engineering world until I was looking for a job in my senior year. I loved architecture, and that was something I had considered before I went to school for engineering. So I always loved buildings and that kind of stuff, but was more looking at automotive engineering when I really went to school, just due to my love of cars. And when it came time to graduate, and as I'd learned more about the automotive industry, I decided I'd keep that more as a hobby rather than a job. So then I was trying to figure that out, and came across an interview with a company, and they started talking about what they did with building design and construction, and also then the opportunities of being more out in the field, being with clients, not sitting at a desk tucked away in a corner somewhere, designing a gear or something. So, that was definitely a fortunate find at that time, and I've loved this industry ever since. And as I've gained more and more experience, it's just been the right fit. So I think that's, enough about me, or I can elaborate more, but certainly if there's questions, or I know we've got kind of a list of questions that we can answer down here too. So
let's touch briefly, Ralph, let's touch briefly on your education. Is your background, has it always been in architecture?
It has.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I discovered that. It really has. When I was in high school, I decided I wanted to be either an architect or a lawyer. And, I was taking the drafting classes in school and art classes in high school, as well as, the other things like, mathematics and calculus and so on and so forth. So, I went to college with the goal to become an architect, and graduated from Iowa State in 1981 and became a licensed architect. So I was really glad that I was followed through. But there are a lot of options, and I know a lot of people that went to architecture school and didn't become architects, or some that became architects and became other things too. But you branched off. So that there's a lot of opportunity for branching. So I know I included a link to some options there, but I really think with sustainability, regardless of where you're at in your educational process, it really pays to start broad, because there are so many options there, and there's so many connections. So, I would say, some advice would be to start broad, and you often do in school. The first couple of years are pretty broad in college, but focus on understanding how the world works. Things like earth sciences. Understand how the sun moves and changes from season to season. Understand how climatic changes, the wind and temperatures affect building performance and people. Understand biology, to the extent you don't have to be an expert in biology, but understand life and how life works, and physics, and all those things are very interconnected, and more. But I think the thing that probably I missed out the most on in school, which I didn't recognize at the time, was as important. It took me many years to figure out. The understanding people is really a huge part of sustainability. So, to the extent that you can work at really understanding people, and all of us can do that in our daily lives. We don't have to go to school for it, but it can help. But really, listen, empathize, try to understand, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, right? Try to understand other people's perspectives. And we see a lot of that, especially when it comes to climate action, that there's a lot of division. And so I'm a very strong believer and advocate for climate action, positive climate action. Some other people are not and opposed. So I really have to work at trying to understand their position rather than starting an argument or a fight, to try to understand where they're coming from. So just some things in transition from starting in school to a little bit where I'm at today. So yeah.
Thank you. I know this is often a tricky question, but can you describe a typical day, or do you even have a typical day? So just trying to get at kind of what tasks do you spend the most time on in day to day in your office?
Yeah, I don't say I really have a typical day. I think my days have evolved a great deal over my career. Younger in my career in an architect's office, typically there are certain roles or titles that people are given, especially in mid-sized and larger offices. So you might start out as, a drafter or a technical, person in that regard. Typically people, if they have some talent or passion for management, move on to project management positions where they oversee projects and budgets and teams and help guide and lead the team, where you work with design architects and project architects and so on. So I guess I skipped a step there. So it's usually kind of technical person or drafter to project architect, often to sometimes project designer, to project manager. It's kind of been a typical path for me. And everybody doesn't follow that same path, but we consult a lot with other people. So some days I have 3 or 4 meetings, some days I have no meetings. Some meetings are still Zoom meetings, and others are in-person meetings. So had a couple meetings yesterday, and sometimes they're very rewarding, where we have good success and present ideas and notions to clients, and they're very receptive, and things evolve. So yeah, there's no typical day anymore.
Chad, what about you?
Yeah, as far as day to day now, it's kind of similar to Ralph's point. There's not just a typical day. It ranges from no meetings, where I might be able to get some stuff done, to meetings all day long, unfortunately. So, and that would be a change of the pandemic, is that just got more stacked with meetings. They became easier and easier, I guess, for people, I think. And the benefit is I'm not traveling as much for those meetings, but now there just seems to be more of them. So, but yeah, same, kind of similar to, as Ralph mentioned, in the engineering side, kind of the career path. I came in as a design engineer. So working on the projects, working on designing the systems, And then as you progress, there's kind of two paths on the engineering side, same as he was mentioning. There's a technical, you can go the more technical route or move more towards project management, are kind of the two main paths. So, I followed more of the project management side while still doing some design and higher level work on that side. And then now I've kind of moved, still doing project management, but then moved more into the oversight and helping with the other projects and project managers and making sure that the projects are moving along smoothly and that we're staffing efficiently. So, but to that point, then the technical specialists that we have in an engineering company are incredibly important. So we always make sure that people understand, there's not some hierarchy to being a project manager versus a technical person. It's really just where your strengths lie and what you want to do. Because having those intelligent people that can really dive into the details, when we're dealing with all the codes and safety and the energy components of projects is incredibly important to have on staff. So, but typical day, it's definitely ranged from used to be more in the office all the time, designing stuff, to nowadays it's running around kind of, either in meetings or having people stop in my office and talking about projects or help that they need, and just kind of helping things move along. So.
Do either of you have any advice or skills for students or emerging professionals that you think are kind of lesser known? I know, Ralph, you said be a good listener and learn people. Anything else like that aren't really kind of technical skills that students get in school that you think are valuable to a green profession?
Yeah, I think there's often a trend to specialize, for architects to want to specialize in a certain thing or a certain niche. And I would say generally my advice would be think broadly. I'm not a huge fan of a specialist in that regard, where someone just does one building type. Life is short and there's a lot going on in life, and it's short in a way. It's short in a sense that you have a lot of options, and one should exercise those options. And it's long in another sense. Hopefully that you have many years of a career ahead of you, so you have time to make some changes and shifts and adjustments, over time. But I'd say my career path was fairly linear, although it wasn't much in this way of specialization. It's always been broad. And I think that set me up well to be things and to be able to be a partner in a firm and help run a firm, to have a wide range of skills. But more importantly than that, those kind of work-related issues is just to think broadly. Think big picture first, and then start focus down. And that really is the design process. It's to start broad and start to focus down. And it doesn't matter if you're an architect or a product designer or a materials designer or an engineer or whatever. The design process typically is to start broadly and start bit by bit to narrow down through stages. Again, the earth sciences, biology, physics, those are really good skills to have and understand. It's not about being an expert in any of those one things. It's about understanding how the world works, understanding how interconnections between, say physics and earth sciences and biology, for instance. And there are other things too, obviously, lots of other things that go into being an architect. The issue of understanding people. Another thing I'd say is follow your passions, follow your beliefs, stand up for your beliefs when and where you can. I think when you're young in a profession, in particular, it's very important that you do a lot of listening and a lot of learning, and not pretend or not think. I really think that sometimes some people starting out early think they know a lot of things because they went to school and they learned this stuff, right? So they know everything, right? Well, I think the more you grow, the more you understand you don't know. So the more you know, the more you know you don't know, right? But but even early on, when you have opportunities to stand up for your beliefs and your passions, do that. If you see something that doesn't look right or doesn't seem right, or you see an option, if the opportunity presents itself, and sometimes you have to make them, make suggestions. But again, they're suggestions; they're not demands or saying it has to be that way. And be prepared for some disappointments, because especially younger in your career, the leaders aren't always going to want to do what you want to do. But it becomes lead by example as well. So as you start to build some small successes, they start to build into larger successes. So there's a lot of stepping stones in life. There's not necessarily a super fast path to go from A to B, or A to X. There's a lot of steps in the way. So think, let your conscience be your guide. I think overall, do think strategically about your career as well. Even people further down the path in their career, there are still adjustments that can be made and things that can be done to do the kind of things I just suggested. That when opportunities present themselves to do something right, you want to try and leverage those opportunities.
Chad, what about you? Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think to the point of listening, in that in the engineering field and in education, there is not a strong emphasis on the soft skills. Being able to work with people, being able to work on a team, being able to listen and communicate your point. So that was something that definitely struck me, even as I was going through engineering school. I knew, like I said earlier, I didn't want to be the guy that just sits in a cube for 30 years and designs some, widget that, whatever, it goes into something else. So, and I loved working with people, and I had always grown up doing that. Our family had a business that, I was around all of the time with the public. And so that was something that I really liked, but they didn't ever really talk about, consulting, or something along those lines is an opportunity where you can still have that kind of interaction with people, but also apply your, your engineering background and knowledge. And then, to the point of listening, even after you get out of school, then once you get into projects and things, something that I always try to do is, even when I'm sitting in a project meeting and they're talking about architectural, I'm still like writing, taking notes. And I mean, that stuff, it applies. It definitely helps you as you grow your career. I do mostly mechanical HVAC side of things, but plumbing, fire protection, electrical, as you become, when I wanted to be a project manager, that was all, benefits of knowledge that I'd already picked up through the years, or at least, gleaned information where at least when something comes up in a meeting, you can like raise your hand and you're like, we might need to talk with, someone that's got maybe, obviously more in-depth knowledge. Our electrical engineers are going to know way more than I will on that stuff, but I've been able to glean a lot of, things where you can say, we might need to, take a pause there. Let's look into that a little bit more. And, that's always a benefit of just listening, learning, even the stuff that's not directly applied to you. But yeah, for sure, the soft skills in engineering is something that are lacking. And, I think it's a benefit to everyone if you can work on those yourself or try and find those opportunities.
Agreed. We have a question from Brandon in the chat. Do you have any mentorship strategies or any current mentees?
So there's no really written policy that we have, but yeah, there is a strategy, and one overall arching strategy is learn by doing. So we definitely have younger people in our office, and have over the years that come in with a passion for sustainability and green building. And one of the first things we ask our newer employees to do, if they aren't already, is to become a LEED accredited professional. So study for it, learn about it, and do that. We introduce people into projects step by step. We don't just throw them in over their head all the time. So, but coach people through 2 or 3 projects, and they learn a tremendous amount. But architecture is very much about apprenticeship, and has been almost from the start. So there's a lot of practice that goes into learning how to become an architect. It's very different in a lot of ways than going to school and learning in school, because when you get into practice, it's a very different structure than the educational process. But obviously, you're still learning. You just learn a different way. So that's a little bit about the mentorship. We do have periodic reviews and discussions, and I think all firms do that. Almost all businesses do that. So where we talk about passions and strengths and weaknesses and things to improve on, and ask our people to think about those ahead of time, and we think about them ahead of time as building. As principals of the firm or owners of the firm. And when we talk to people, we go through those and we try to work on them for the next period between reviews and check on progress.
Yeah, and from our side, we do have a mentor program that as new engineers come in, we do pair them up with someone that's somewhat at a similar level, maybe a few years ahead of them, to kind of help guide them along in that sense, but then also that senior level, engineering support as well, that more is they're usually the lead on the project, guiding the overall, direction and helping with any questions. And that is the staff on the project is working through it. But we've found, having somebody that's kind of still in the same trench as you are is also good, just to kind of help them, point them in the right direction. If they've got questions, that person can help them, or, kind of give them that guidance to say, well, maybe look over here, or let's go talk to, Randy or somebody here that just, that would maybe have that answer. But we do agree that mentorship is very important. Currently I do not have a mentee right now, but throughout my career, I have had several, both here locally and then in other firms I've had overseas, people that I worked with that were engineers that I mentored at that time. So that was always interesting. If they're ending their day, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just coming in the morning, so they're getting ready to head home for the night. But that was kind of always an interesting transition. But yeah, anyway, so yes.
We have a question about professional certifications and registrations. Do you recommend one over the other, like LEED, WELL, et cetera? Are you seeing one as currently more valuable than the others? And what would you recommend for someone looking to advance their expertise in green building as far as certifications and registrations?
Well, like I did mention, we do like all our employees to be LEED accredited professionals. So that's that's kind of a starting point. And one of the reasons is that it's broad. It covers a lot of topics. LEED has different buckets. Starting with location and transportation, sites, water, energy, materials and resources, indoor environmental quality. And they're different systems for some slightly different names depending on the LEED system of those buckets. So yeah, that's good. I would also say, people should additionally follow their passions. So if they have a greater interest in something like sites issues, the landscape architects might be a lot more interested in those details, then, really study up on the sites system. Or some people would be have a really high interest in human health and well-being. So the WELL system is something that they may choose to want to get involved in. Others may, or additionally, want to learn about the Living Building Challenge and understand that in more detail. And help advocate for that, so they can really get involved and become a lead ambassador, for instance. Is another thing to do. So there are a lot of a lot of things, a lot of certifications people can have. I think I mean, the thing about getting a certification or some initials after your name is really it's an indicator to other people of your interests and sometimes passions and expertise. But I also know a lot of people that have a lead AP after the name that have never done a lead project. So you don't just have to get accredited. You have to work and continually practice and do those things. So and for those lead APs that haven't got to do a lead project, I would say, talk to the folks in your firm, talk to your supervisors, whoever, and let them know you really want to work on a lead project or a well project or whatever it might be. Let your desires be known if that's important to you, and work towards it.
Yeah, from our side, I mean, the thing that we really encourage our engineers that are going to continue in engineering or in consulting engineering is, we really want them to pursue their professional engineering license. That definitely is something that, to Ralph's point, shows that you have a passion for this, that you're serious and take it seriously, that you're, going to spend that time and those years, because it is 4 years of practice before you can sit for the PE, plus having your fundamental engineering exam taken care of as well. Outside of that, then it's really more of what you want to do, what you want to pursue. So lead AP, obviously, or well, that's becoming a bigger one. I think we have 1 or 2 well accredited professionals now in our firm. Obviously, there's several more lead, just been around longer. But then we also have ASHRAE has a lot of certifications that go along with, like, building energy modeling and more on that side. So we have several people that are more involved in the technical side or more in the energy modeling and that pursue that side. Not that they can't also go for lead, but it's more of just, yes, we want you to get your PE. We think that's incredibly important if you want to continue to grow and lead projects and that. But then also, what do you want to do is really kind of where that lies, or what things make sense from the projects that you're involved in.
I think that's an important question that people often have a hard time answering. And I think it's an important thing for young professionals to really think about. What do you want to do? Really, where is your passion? Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree that professional licensure is very important. To people that have trained to become an architect, make sure they're on a path. And there is a mentorship structure with that as well. So there's an intern development program that goes along with the path to licensure that has been part of our mentorship program, so that there are certain tasks and things that they need experience in, so that we work together with the intern to find ways to get experience, say in construction administration, to get out on the project job sites or get involved with that phase of the project, not just the earlier design phases. So it's a comprehensive kind of checklist, if you will, to mentorship for developing interns to the path to licensure.
All right, I think that was all of our questions. Oh wait, we do have one more. When people use the term sustainability and the term green building, how do you define these and the connection or differences between the two terms? When talking with clients, do you think they initially understand these two terms?
Yeah, there's a lot packaged in these words, and they do mean different things to different people. So I think the question kind of evolved to clients. So yeah, it's very important to have the discussions early with clients. And in fact, the AIA and their code of ethics revised that a few years ago to require architects to have a sustainability discussion with their clients. So the clients, again, may not understand what that means. They may have different ideas about what it means. but it is our ethical responsibility as architects, as defined now by the American Institute of Architects. We're supposed to have that conversation. So yeah, I mean, sustainability means different things to different people. I think there's been a lot of talk about that term. It's kind of evolved in thinking in the past, handful of years to regenerative design. So that is recognizing that, to some people, sustainability is about reaching a state of equilibrium and balance, between all of our resources, which includes people, and the environment, or the environment and those resources and people, and building, recognizing that building can be and usually is a destructive practice. There's doing damage to things while it's making some other things better, right? So regenerative is really about the goal and a set of strategies to make sure that every step of design and building process is aimed at improving life rather than just maintaining a state of equilibrium. Getting up to equilibrium where the Earth's needs and building needs kind of balance themselves, right? Green building goes along with that. So it's part of the discussion. What's green building compared to sustainability, compared to regenerative? And we're really not trying to get into those kind of debates about what those mean, but just trying to find out what is important to our clients, trying to lead our clients, because we're professionals in the building environment, and understand that sometimes client needs seem pretty basic for a building, but recognizing the impacts buildings can have and the built environment can have, the built environment outside the building as well as inside, and having that discussion and coaching on ways to improve those conditions. So sometimes there's issues of employee productivity that can be enhanced, along with it, designed for humans, right? Designed for human well-being. Work with the zoo. We're concerned about human well-being as well as the animal welfare. So there are just a lot of different things with different clients and what their needs are, and we try to do our best to understand our clients' needs, and lead them to some decisions that are going to enrich life.
Chad,
Yeah.
do you have any quick differences on those terms?
No, yeah, I think I was going to say from the engineering side, I'd say they're used interchangeably a lot more. Clients that we work with, yes, they want to look at ways that they could save energy, which typically will look to be saving money on the, in the end. So then we have to do that cost benefit analysis. If it's $1 million more for that system, they want to see that that's eventually going to maybe pay them back rather than just they're spending $1 million more for no return. That's not to say that's every client. To Ralph's point, you do just have to understand what the client means. You just need to dig into what they're really getting at with that. But I would say, most of the time, those would be used interchangeably for our side of things. It's just trying to understand what they mean and what their target is, and obviously then working budgets and that. So.
All right, well, we've definitely run over our time, but I want to thank Chad and Ralph for the interesting discussion this morning, and also invite everybody to our Tuesday night program on November 9th. Our evening educational program is on advancing equity and inclusion in the built environment, and you can register for that now. So again, thanks Chad and Ralph and all of our attendees. And we look forward to seeing you at another event soon.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Orion, for being here. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, everyone have a great
Bye.
weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.